Since I don't know where Senator Bradley ended up at. Okay. I call the committee to order, and do I have a motion to go into executive session?
Second.
I have a motion second to go into executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. We are in executive session, and we have the commissioner here. Come on up. You can introduce yourself, and if you have, we actually do have two chairs if you,
Jeff needs to come up.
whatever.
Relatively brief the conversation we're having here. So for the record, Frank Gadelblue, Commissioner of Education. I'm appearing before the committee at the request of Senator D'Alessandro to provide some information relative to SB 396, which is a bill relative to making an appropriation to the Culinary Arts Program at the Wilbur H. Palmer Regional Career and Technical Education Center for $600,000. This bill came to the committee at my recommendation as the commissioner, but as well as at the recommendation of Senator Sharon Carson, who I believe is the sponsor of the bill, the prime sponsor on the bill. Because of a series of errors that took place both at the department as well as at the CTE Center. So the CTE Center in question is the Hudson High School CTE Center. It was originally, the appropriation for the CTE Center was put in place in 2019. In 2021, the center was essentially complete. Starting in the year 2021, the center was being used for education. We had done our walkthrough in that period of time and basically accepted the project. As is normal when a project like this finishes, there tends to be some punch list items that continue for a period of time. So that was in September 21. In December of 22, December 15th of 22, the school district reached out to an individual, Kathy Page, who used to work at the department and was administering some of these grant funds, and asked the question if they were still able to access funds that had not yet been returned for the project. And Kathy explained to them that there is $672,672 remaining in appropriations for Hudson CTE Center. That's a good thing. That means that they built it for less than the appropriation, so we're happy about that. She indicated that these funds cannot be used for costs that were not part of the original proposed project. However, since there was a design flaw in the teaching kitchen with insufficient ventilation, and remaining appropriations may be used to fund new culinary hoods and exhaust systems to fix the issue. So this happened between an individual in the CTE department and the school district, and that was in December 15th. On February 14th, the school district again reached out to Kathy and asked them if the funds would be available. Although no action had been taken by the agency at that time to make such funds available, but Kathy indicated to the school district the renovation funds will still be available during FY24 for reimbursement on the ventilation system for the teaching lab space in culinary. So had indicated to the district that those funds were available, but in fact no legislative action had been taken necessarily to make them available at that point in time. On March 7th, the project was brought to my attention because at that level it would require authorization by the commissioner to approve any type of an expenditure. And my response to the agency was that given the scope of this extension, it was about $1 million expansion on a $12 million project. It seems to me that this needs to go back through the capital process, as it is a substantial change to the building to add $1 million of cost. And so I believe that I didn't have authority to approve an extra $1 million of spending 2.5 years after the original project was completed. And so was trying to encourage them to go back to the legislature to get that taken care of. That information was not communicated to the Hudson School District. And Hudson School District, even at that time, had already begun the renovation process. They had contracted and were in the process of, making the renovations to the CTE Center. Although at that time they would not have had, any legislative approval. They did have Kathy's approval, but we had no legislative approval because these funds would have had to be legislatively carried forward in the budget process. And so I think that there were a number of errors, both on the agency's part as well as on the school district's part, of presuming that things were going as, going forward the way that they were. And this has resulted in, again, Hudson already went forward and made these improvements, but is seeking reimbursement for them. I do understand that they enhanced the programming at the CTE Center. We did use the CTE Center for 2 years without these enhancements. I do think that they continue to enhance the ability and the availability of instruction in that environment. But I don't believe as an agency that I have the ability or the authority to authorize that level of spending. So I don't know if Senator D'Alessandro, if that helps to explain where we are.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Senator.
Okay, let me tell you a little different story about this project. The original capital appropriation wasn't enough money. So I worked to find the rest of the money to do this project, knowing full well they were short to begin with, and I got them more money to finish the project. Now you're telling me you need another $600,000 to correct an error that took place. A $600,000 error in a multi-million-dollar project, which indeed from the beginning they said was underappropriated. So it was underappropriated, we got more money to appropriate it, and now you're telling me that mistakes were made, and as a result of that, you need $672,000 more to repay somebody for work that had already been done. How the hell did you do the work without any authorization?
Yep, so a couple of things there. So I am familiar with the origin of this project because I too was involved in the initial capital appropriation. And if you recall, it came through the legislature in two different tranches because we appropriated it one, but there was not sufficient capital appropriation in the initial proposal. So we split it into two so that they got a second appropriation in a second biennium to be able to complete the project. You might recall that that was the first time that that ever happened. The full appropriation was for the full project, so it's not so much that they didn't have the amount of appropriation that they needed for the project, so much as this legislature split that appropriation over two biennium budgets, and as a result of that, we could not guarantee to them that the subsequent legislature would ever appropriate it, but they received the correct amount of appropriation for the project. They built the project that they had specified for under the budgeted amounts, right? So they had a plan, that plan was approved, and they built the project for less than the funding that they originally asked for, and it met the specifications of the plan for the design. The school has adopted an additional pedagogical approach. So essentially the way this is they have various cooking stations, and this one section of the cooking section, they have student tables, so there are student food preparation tables, and then there is a teacher station. The teacher station has a slanted mirror that allows the students to watch the preparation while that's taking place. The students are able to use the tables as they were designed to do the food preparation. What they were not able to do on that portion of the test kitchen is to do cooking, so to cook with grease, because they hadn't installed fans over that section. After they occupied the space, they're like, you know what, we really need fans over here so the kids can cook in this section. I do agree that's an enhancement to the instructional opportunity for the kids, but was not part of the original plan. And so they built the school according to plan for less than was appropriated, and they subsequently came back seeking additional funds. I believe, to your point, the amount of the funds was beyond the authorization of the department, even if I had the appropriation in a leftover money because they underspent someplace to go out and approve an expansion of the program beyond the original design, and therefore thought that legislative approval was the appropriate action to take.
Senator.
Thank you. I'm talking about a screw up. I mean, we appropriated the money. We found that we didn't appropriate enough money, so we reappropriated money. We found capital money someplace. Through the good work of the Legislative Budget Office, we found an additional capital money. We appropriated that additional capital money. Now we find out that in the planning something went wrong. They didn't realize they needed fans? Huh? They didn't realize that for a cooking station? I mean, this is crazy. We're talking about $700,000. $700,000 here. Now that's a pretty big mistake, $700,000. And not only that, they built the building for less money and they turned money back. What, then they found out they needed the fans?
And
Well,
Senator,
they had actually occupied the building for 2 years before this as well.
if I might interject, okay, part of the reason why I wanted the commissioner here is that we heard the story from the point of view of the school district. We've now heard the story from the point of view of the commissioner. I believe that there are still some of us senators that desire to give the school district some funding, okay? And so if we concentrate on, are we going to give them some funding, and where is that funding coming from, although it may be objectionable to somebody of where we might get that funds, that I think we need to go forward.
I think you got the whole thing wrong, Senator. The item should be, what about doing something right? If you get the money to do something, why don't you do it? Why do you find out after the thing has been complete that you actually needed an amenity to make the program right? We went back and found more money to complete this project. We dug to find that money so that the kids in Hudson, the kids using this site, the Wilbur H. Palmer Regional Center for Technical and Career Education, we went and found the money. We found the money to make it right. And then now we find out it was wrong, that they actually didn't do it properly.
So
and
Senator, if I-
they needed more, and they needed more money. I'm talking to Senator Gray.
Sorry.
All right. Let's confine the dialogue to the people involved.
And Senator Gray's answer is that the original spend on the vocational system building was, they did not spend 600 and X thousand, okay? And now they are asking for that 600 and whatever thousand to fund the rest of the range hoods, et cetera, that weren't there. So I'm going to give you a break. Senator Bradley has been patient, so we're going
You're going to give me a break?
to,
What do you mean you're going to give me a break?
I'm going to ask
You're going to
you,
shut me down
I'm going
and let me not speak
No.
because somebody else has their microphone on?
because.
Let me finish.
Certainly,
I
Senator.
think that if we approve projects like this, then we are committing calumny. That's a grievous offense against the Lord. Because we appropriate money, we find out that the money we appropriated wasn't spent properly, and now they need $700,000 more. And who bears the responsibility for this? Who bears the responsibility? Is it the legislature, who not only appropriated, but then reappropriated to give more money to do the project? I'm finished.
Senator Bradley.
So, as a member of the Capital Budget Committee with Senator D, when this happened, I think it's good to remind everybody what happened. We were trying to squeeze in the CTE Center in Hudson when we didn't have the resources to do it in the capital budget prior to the one that we fully funded it. So I think part of the responsibility is on the legislature, all right? I was on the Capital Budget Committee. We have always tried to fund these CTE centers. Senator Gray got one in Rochester, okay? This was a unique situation because we're up against a $125 million cap that the treasurer wants us to maintain so that we maintain our good bond rating. But at the same time, we wanted to make a commitment to Hudson knowing we weren't going to be able to fund it all in one capital budget. So we came back in the subsequent capital budget and fully funded it, all right? So I think the question is, less about, was there a screw up? Okay, I think it is more about, should we fund the hoods for friolators that can create fires that burn down burn down the capital budget, to say nothing of the CTE centers. I think that is the question, whether it's going to be on, the legislature to fund it or the good taxpayers of Hudson. That's the question. I think we lose track of, what is in front of us by relitigating the history. This was a very unique situation because of the fact that we couldn't squeeze, and I can't even remember what the full appropriation is, but it was
About $12 million.
12 million, yeah. Twice or 12 million once?
It was about 12 million, 12.7, I think, one time.
One time. So, that's 10% of the capital budget. And Senator D, you know how competitive capital budget projects are.
I agree with everything you've said because I was there also. I was on the capital budget at that time. And when we found that we needed to get more money, we scrubbed and found the additional money. We found the additional money to make it whole, to make the project whole. And now we find out that they did something and added to it when they found out that the hoods weren't there or so forth, and gave money back because they said they did the project under budget, and now they're asking for money to fulfill the fact that they gave money back, but really didn't really give money back because they're asking for the same money again. How many projects do we have to go through like this? I mean, 700,000. That's a lot of money to me. I'm poverty stricken. That's a lot of money to me for a project. I mean, it is what it is. And certainly, I don't want to have anything fall on me that I'm not caring for the students who cook and so forth and so on. Remember, there were a couple of students that burnt down that high school. Do you remember that? They actually burnt that high school down, and they had to rebuild it.
I did not know that, but
They poured incendiary devices in that school, burnt it down. My grandchildren went to that high school. So that high school's had some problems. This CTE center is just an additional one. But it boggles my mind, that's all. I've been around here a long time, and I've seen a lot of things. But this one gets me when $750,000 mistake was made, and now we got to find the money to appropriate it, and it's in place. So who paid for it? Who paid for it that needs the $700,000 reimbursement? The town?
Yes.
correct.
Okay, on my list of people who have asked to speak, Senator Innes, followed by Senator Rosenwald, but before that, I think there's actually 3 times that I know of that we've split. I think Somersworth was split across budgets, Rochester was split across budgets, and this one was split across budgets. So just if anybody wants to know whether we've done it in the past. Senator Innes.
Just a brief comment, or sort of in support of Senator D. I mean, we built the Paul College, we put in a big culinary space, we included hoods. I mean, I can't imagine how this was overlooked. You build a house, you put in a hood. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
So if I may comment on that, so they have a section with hoods, right?
Okay.
What they don't have is there's another section in the test kitchen that they didn't anticipate they were going to use the hoods, right? Because it was more the prep
All right.
cooking. So
Okay.
the students have a place in the current place to be able to use the hoods and to do the cooking and stuff. What they're trying with the design, so they built it according to the specification. That's how it was designed to be used. When they got in there, they said, like, you know what, it would be a lot easier to have these kids over here being able to cook as well.
Where the mirrors are located.
Correct.
Can we put mirrors on the other side and call it good? Just thinking out loud here. All right.
Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. This just seems like I'm trying to track how this actually happened, and I think I was on one of those capital budget committees too. So Hudson made a purchase for which they didn't have approval. But DOE told them they could spend the money on it.
Yes, so
So
there,
they
we
went
had
out
an
and
individual
bought
who
it.
was a clerical person in the agency who wrote an email that said, you know,
Okay.
there's a $670,000 appropriation in Hudson CTA. These funds cannot be used for costs that were not part of the original proposed project. However, since there was a design flaw, she approved it. Now, this individual would know that they don't have approval authority for that kind of money. I don't even think I have approval authority for that kind of money. If it's germane, the individual who accepted that approval used to be the director of the CTE at the department, so might also understand who's allowed to approve funds and who isn't.
But
But I can understand why they imagined that they had approval, because somebody sent them an email. It's right there.
well, all right, but so first they go ahead and make a buy without approval. Then they're told they can spend it, but the department gives it back. So it seems to me we have three funding choices. Either we can make Hudson pay for it because they made an unapproved purchase. We could appropriate more money, or because the department made a mistake, we could say, find it in your budget. And I think those are our three choices.
Senator Ennis?
Or we could split it three ways.
Yeah.
Hudson, the state, and education.
We could.
Yep.
Just to be clear, we don't have a budget for mistakes. That would be my new line item in my next budget submission.
We don't have a
Possible
budget
mistakes.
for mistakes either.
Senator D'Alessandro has the floor.
Thank you. Let me read you comments from Dr. Jeff Beard, the State Director of the CTE program. The department had an opportunity to bring forward unspent funds. In this case, at that time, they had the opportunity. They were unaware of this kitchen issue. They believed the project at the Farmer Center was complete. The Hudson School District has done a great job using funds wisely. It did have some unspent funds that the department could have brought forward. The department believes there is a technical difference between allowability and appropriations. Appropriations come through the legislature and the governor. So they're being commended for doing a great job. By us, we're telling them you did a great job, and now we're finding that great job requires $700,000 to get done. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I hope you try to use a little common sense.
Commissioner?
So just to be clear, and again, as I indicated in my March email, that I thought that this was beyond the scope even of the department. So even if they wanted to spend carry forward funds, if I'm managing a CTE project and we've built it according to specification, or we're building it according to specification, if I get a change order for $1 million, I'm not going to unilaterally approve a change order for $1 million, without coming back to spend additional funds without coming back to the legislature, because I don't know that I have the ability to just, allow that to happen. My job is they get a project approved. When it comes before the Capital Committee, we're looking at plans. Everybody knows, and we all agree on this is what we're going to build. Here's the price that we're going to build it, and so we try and manage within that budget to build that project. If somebody wants to change the scope of the project, then that scope change, if it increases the cost of the project, I believe would need to come back to the legislature.
Senator D'Alessandro?
But
And especially I'm 2 years after at this point.
you just have to follow the testimony that was given when this bill was heard. Mr. Beard's testimony. I mean, look through it. He says the money should have been spent. Dr. Beard explained that at the end of each quarter, the department reports on expenditures related to the capital budget. In this case, they had an opportunity to bring the funds forward. At this point, they decided not to do so. In December 2023, they were aware of the teaching kitchen issue, but were unaware the work was going to be done. The work was outside of the scope of what was originally approved for this project. This was an additional cost. That's in the testimony that we have heard from the department with regard to this project.
Okay.
Thank
With all of that said, I'm not really ready to take a final motion on this bill because I think that there needs to be some discussion. The one thing I do want to ask Senator D'Alessandro, because I'm confused, is if you were, Commissioner of Ed and the head of the community and everything else, what would your solution be? Or what would Solomon's solution be in splitting this baby?
Well, I think it's very difficult to make these decisions post-operation. If I could have corrected the situation, I would have said, you have an additional amount of money. Don't turn it back.
Right.
Ask for permission to spend the money on what you believe completes the project. You have the money, the money's there. Once you made the decision to send the money back, you created the dilemma.
I understand, but I want to make it clear, we are where we are right now, okay? Sending the money back, not sending the money back, that's gone,
We claw
okay?
back the money.
So
We claw back the money.
the money, clawed back or not, it's already back. It's already, the year has passed, the money's gone. We can't get it from the legislature because it was either turned back to but sitting here now, okay? Should I make the town whole? Should I not make the town whole? Should I take the money from the Department of Ed? Should I split it as Senator Innes? What would be your recommendation so that we can get together in caucuses, both on the Republican and the Democratic side, and see if we can't come up with something to present to the other side? All right, I'll let you think about it, and Commissioner, I don't see any other questions for you. I appreciate your attendance here, and I certainly wanted to give you the opportunity to tell the story from your side, and we've heard it from various sides, and be assured that we will do what the collective we think is right. Bills that were retained in the last session that I want to deal with today. And that we will start with House Bill 307, and I'll give you a minute to open your books. Okay, 307 is relative to attorney fees and actions under the right to know. We have a motion of ought to pass by Senator Rosenwald. Do we have a second for that? Seeing no second, do I have another motion?
I move interim study.
I have Senator Innes moves interim study, seconded by Senator Pearl. Comments that I have on this one. We have an ombudsman. And the ombudsman, if I were the one who was writing an amendment to this, I would say, ombudsman, you need to be involved, and if a court action is filed, the court ought to go look at the ombudsman, talk to him, and see whether or not it's been through him, and if it hadn't been through him, to delay their action until the ombudsman had a chance. And if the ombudsman said, give them the documents, and the town or municipality refused to do that and filed the court case, then I think it's appropriate at that point to pay attorney fees. But if we haven't gone through that process, now, we also have another House bill right now that deals with the Right to Know Act, okay? And that may or may not come to us, but it gives us another bite at this apple should we want to take it. So personally, I can support interim study on this. Further comments from you senators? Senator D'Alessandro.
Thank you. We have Senator Innes's amendment to this bill. So let's, if I could, Senator
Absolutely.
Innes, go over the rationale for your amendment.
Yeah. The rationale is that many communities aren't really certain if a request is frivolous or not. And the idea was the ombudsman would be able to help them make that determination. And, then the community could then decide whether or not they want to meet the right to know request. I think it adds a little bit of assurance to the communities and provides an objective third-party opinion on the value of a request and the intent of a request. I mean, we know there are frivolous requests designed just to slow people down or create problems. This helps the communities to make a fair determination about whether or not to fulfill a request. So that is the intention behind the amendment.
Thank you.
I like the amendment a lot. Whether the bill survives or not, I think it's a good amendment and maybe something we should revisit at a later time. Yeah.
Further questions? Senator Rosenblum.
Does the amendment stand alone?
That's an interesting question. I think it well could.
Is that something we should consider?
We could do that. I actually sent to drafting a further revision of the amendment based on some input that I received. So maybe, I hate to hold this.
Just so that I correct this thing, the amendment says replacing all after section 1.
Correct.
So it is not replace all,
No.
section 1 would remain, and the bill would be there.
The amendment in drafting could be changed to a replace all, however. And it's very similar to this one, just a little more clarification on process.
Senator Bradley.
So if we're going to contemplate further amending the bill, I want to hear from the municipal association, because as I looked through the hearing report, there was a lot of concern expressed about the bill in the hearing, about the costs. So I think it was City of Concord, City of Keene, and NHMA testified opposing it. So I'm happy with interim study. I think Senator Gray's right, we'll probably get another bite at this apple, but if we're gonna split the baby in half and go with Senator Innes's amendment, I wanna know what NHMA might think about it.
Okay. Ms. Heck, is this in your lane? No. Okay. The motion before us right now is interim study, okay? Is there any further discussion?
Yeah.
If, Senator Gray, if we have another vehicle for that amendment, I can support the interim study. But I do want the amendment to sort of see the light of day at some point. Because I think it'll help our towns and cities.
The other bill that I spoke of is still in the House.
Right.
And so I can't tell you what's going to happen in the House. Certainly, what happens to this bill today, again, the reason that I laid out the process the way I did, okay, is that if the ombudsman is involved and the ombudsman agrees with either the plaintiff or the defendant, okay, then that should carry some weight. And then if the courts decide afterward to support whatever the ombudsman said, and the municipality didn't support that, then I think the court should be allowed to offer them, offer the plaintiff the court costs. And this would have to be changed some to reflect that, which could be done on a floor amendment because it wouldn't be done today.
It could be.
Senator Rosenwald, you were first.
Yes, do we know, maybe LBA knows, when the House is going to be taking up that other right to
The
know?
House voted on it. I believe that somebody told me that there was a motion to reconsider that was being considered.
But, so it didn't pass?
Grant, just go down to the table, hit the button, and tell me what it says. Because trying to get me to read that on your tiny little phone.
The bill number, Grant Bosley, New Hampshire Senate, the bill number is HB 1002. The House passed it relative to fees for records under the right to know law. It passed the House last week, 193 to 179, and a notice of reconsideration has been filed. So the House would need to take that up on the floor this Thursday to whether they reconsider it or not.
So could we
Follow up, Senator?
maybe wait until next week to see if it's going to come to us?
We can do a lot, okay? Would I choose to wait? I would like to get these 5 bills that we talked about off our plate, okay? So if you have additional questions, if not, then we'll recognize
Mr. Chair?
Senator D'Alessandro.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He was next on my hit list. You can be after him.
I guess it's a question for Senator Ennis. If indeed you have another amendment that you want to bring forward, could that amendment be brought forward at our next meeting? Or
It could,
or
certainly.
Could we do a committee amendment and really have it done now as we have done in the past? And the one thing that I about this whole deal is that the court may award.
Yes.
So there's nothing mandatory
Correct.
about that particular
That's
situation.
right.
The court may award attorney's fees, is in the bill. And you're striking section 1, but retaining section 2, and your other changes and so. So it seems to me that, I know Senator wants to get this out, but if you think the amendment that you're gonna bring forward satisfies the situation, and Roman 2 is still in there, it's probably worth waiting for, if that makes sense, I mean, because it does take the place of the interim study. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Pearl, you were next.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Chair.
then Senator Bradley.
Mine is more of a parliamentary inquiry, could be of you or the Senate President. If we were to pass this interim study today out of committee and new information comes to light based on the House actions, could we, on the floor, then re-refer it back to committee if we chose to?
Absolutely.
And that's one way to go forward.
Senator Bradley, you were next.
Yeah, all I was gonna say is, disagreeing with Senator Ennis a little bit, this amendment, doesn't do anything to help the municipalities with the high cost of right to knows. It just says, it just says the ombudsman would assist the municipalities. Well, big deal. I mean, that's the bottom line. So Senator Gray, I mean, has a better way of doing it. If you go to court and you lose, then there are potentially attorney's fees, but that's also on the back of the municipality. So I'm very happy with interim study. You know, we talk about towns all the time, not overburdening them. And some of these right-to-know requests are pretty frivolous.
Okay, the motion before us right now is interim study. Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor of interim study say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay.
No,
No,
So it was 2 nays, and there must be 6 of us here, so the 4 in favor. So, and in case Senator Ennis wants to bring in a floor amendment and ask us, well, we'll let him take it out, and that'll make it easier for him to,
Thank you, Senator.
because he'll be speaking anyway.
yes. All right.
Okay, the next one is 596.
Second.
Senator Bradley moves ought to pass. Absolutely, Senator.
Thank you. I have to admit to having some concern about tying the hands of law enforcement, but when I look at the committee hearing, there was no opposition to it. So on that basis, and the fact that it's a second committee and the Senate has already adopted the policy, I'm okay with it.
Further comments from senators? Motion before us is ought to pass on House Bill 596. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And I will take that one out. Okay, the next one I have on the list is 134, Senate Bill 134. All right,
Second.
we have an ought to pass by Senator Pearl, seconded by Senator Bradley. Discussion.
If I may?
Yes, sir.
I'd say this, we heard a lot of testimony on this bill in ED&A when it came through. We certainly have two officers, one being in Ware and one out of Manchester, that are in a pretty tough situation because of the area within the retirement system that doesn't allow them to be compensated because of their years of service. So we, I believe this came out of ED&A 50, and we supported it on the floor, and I'd like to see us support the same in finance.
Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support the bill. Officer Doherty was shot in my district. I've known him since he's been a young boy, young man. That guy is going to suffer for the rest of his life. There is no question that the ordinance that's left in his body will eventually kill him. I don't think there's any question about that. And I think this is a good way to help them out. They have one child. The other situation is the young man from Ware who was
Yes.
shot, and he's got a significant problem also. So I think it's doing the right thing.
I would agree.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other comments? Just to bring in attention to the fiscal note, that the impact of this, because of the way the retirement system would not be until 2026. Okay, motion before us is ought to pass. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. And Senator Pearl, would you like to take that one
I
up?
would unless Senator D would like to because of the impact on his community. Either way is fine with me.
We'll give you the opportunity, Senator D.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
All right.
Chairman. Thank you.
So I understand that Senator Birdsall may have a amendment. So we just highlighting that.
Contemplating an amendment, or will have one?
Yeah, so.
We believe that she will have one, but because of the procedure that she was having done today, she was not here today. So that if your office would check with her office and coordinate that in your remarks or whatever, I would appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Senator Pearl.
Okay. So moving along, we're at Senate Bill 219.
I'll move on to pass.
Senator Ennis moves ought to pass on 219. This is establishing, requiring minimum reporting by school districts for school expenses. I will second it.
I don't think we need this. I was on the local school board for 10 years. I've represented a community, an SB2 community, and I went to the school meeting every year. I attended a public meeting of the school district. You found out anything you wanted to know, either by querying at that meeting or just going and looking at the school records that are produced. They produce it in the town report. I don't think we have to do this. They're public entities. They have to produce their financial statement. They have to be part of the report. I represent the city of Manchester now because I lost my town in the redistricting. But indeed, I can find out what I would like to know. I think any citizen can find out what they want to know. I just think this is we don't need this. I mean, average teacher salary, we just got those published in the Union Leader. We got that. The top administrator, we got that published in the Union Leader. I don't think it's required. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Rosenwald, you were the next one on the list.
Yes, thank you. There are a couple of things that bother me about this bill. One is the legislative findings that, this thing about this bureaucratic, privileged, ever-expanding and privileged bureaucratic class. I have no idea what that means. But looking at the finance aspect of it, I think the second to last section on civil remedies allows anybody, anywhere, to bring a civil suit. And I think there's no guardrails around who is aggrieved. That person doesn't even need to be in New Hampshire, as far as I can tell. So I'll be voting no.
Interesting.
Okay. Senator Ennis.
Senator D, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I will say, however, that not all districts are quite as forthcoming, perhaps, with information in newspapers like Manchester, unfortunately. And having worked at a university with lots of reporting of similar things, I think the idea that the sponsor had with this particular bill was to make it easier for the average person to access and understand this information, particularly when they're preparing to go to a town meeting or something along those lines. So that's the reason for my support of it. And I don't think it's going to put an onerous burden on any school district to come up with a few numbers in a different format.
Okay, Senator Bradley.
So, just a question to my two colleagues there. If the last section of the bill on page 3 was struck, which is the civil remedies, would you be able to vote for the bill?
I'm sorry, what?
If we did a committee amendment to strike section 6 of the bill, which is the civil remedies.
The civil remedies? Well, I think it would make it better,
You'd still,
but, sorry.
according to you still have to go back into the findings and make an adjustment there.
I would, yeah, and I don't think we need this bill either, but certainly I think striking the findings and striking that civil remedies makes what I consider an unnecessary bill less potentially expensive.
Well, one way might be to go into line 9 on page 3 and say any person withstanding, okay? And then you would do that, but certainly that section could go all together. So let's go back to page 1, and what lines are objectionable on page 1?
For me,
Yeah. You're the one that said,
from line 1 down to line 26. I'm not a fan of findings in general, but I also really don't like these findings. But,
Yeah.
but I'm not gonna vote for the bill anyway, so don't worry about it on my account.
Senators, you know that I do try to take into
I know you
consideration
do.
people's objections.
But I think we're leaving ourselves open to expensive litigation with that civil remedies section.
So,
Anyway.
might I suggest that the committee amendment strike lines 9 through 13 inclusive? All right? The severability part, I don't have a problem with that staying in. That is all part of Romans 6. Does that take care of it for you?
Well, it takes care of.
I understand you're not going to
Yeah.
vote for it anyway.
Yes, but I will vote for that committee amendment.
All right, so the committee amendment will include at least striking lines 9 through 13 on page 3 of the bill, which takes out 189.77. Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to see part of the legislative findings modified? Okay. So, the committee amendment would be moved by Senator Ennis. So moved. Seconded by, do you want to second the committee amendment, Senator?
Committee amendment's just to strike the civil remedy.
Yep.
Lines 9 through 13.
Okay, Senator Rosenwald seconds. For the committee amendment, is there further discussion on the committee amendment? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the committee amendment, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. And now we go back to the bill as amended.
Pass as amended.
And, well, we actually have Senator Ennis and Senator Gray, who has already done that way back in the beginning. But, you know, we'll note it. All right, further discussion on the bill itself as amended.
Sense of humor you have,
Hey, I practiced that for 74 plus years, so. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor of the bill as amended, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
No.
And so we have 4-2. And Senator Ennis, do you want to take that out?
Yes, sir.
Okay. See how much fun you can have on Tuesday afternoon. Senate Bill 248.
I'll move on to pass.
Senator Bradley moves ought to pass.
Second.
No, it's fine. I don't care.
I'll put, the second was by Ennis and Rosenwald. Right here in my notes. Right here in my notes.
So which one?
The motion is ought to pass, made by Senator Bradley, seconded first by Senator Ennis. And the second, or third or fourth. Okay, and this is relative to bail for defendant. Discussion.
Yes, this has been a Senate priority for quite some time, and overwhelming majorities of the Senate have passed this fix. This bill is the same as Senate Bill 252 when it left the Senate, which was Senator Soucy's bill that I think enjoyed overwhelming, though not unanimous, support, as I recall. The House is making a lot of progress on Senator Soucy's bill, as well as a couple of other bills that are part of a comprehensive package that brings in magistrates, increases the fee for bailiffs, It does eliminate a couple of the cited crimes in either 252 or 248, I think domestic violence, misdemeanor domestic violence, and child pornography, which I'm not really thrilled about, but I think overall the House has done a pretty good job of something that they've never dealt with in the past. My understanding is their bills are in front of the Finance Committee, in particular to fund the magistrates. So this is sort of an insurance policy. I think we should send it over and, you know, try to work with our friends in the House and get a good package that solves what's a really bad problem.
Further discussion from committee members? Seeing none, the motion in front of us is ought to pass. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And senators, you?
Sure.
Anybody? Okay. Senator D will take it out. I'm sure that he might be disappointed, but that would be as far as it went, Senator. All right. Okay, Senator Pearl has a hard stop due to child picking up, and I don't have any others that I'm trying to push you to get out. Is there anything any of the senators want to bring up in this executive session? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a motion to come out of executive session. We have a motion and a second to come out of executive session. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. We are out of executive session. Our business today being complete, we are adjourned.